Growing up, my grandmother, she always told me and my brothers stories about her mom's family. And her mother's family, their last name was Owens. And the funny thing is that I grew up in the same exact town, or the neighboring little town in Mississippi, but we never knew if we had cousins or anything like that. And with my grandmother, I don't think it was anything mean or harmful. It was just life. She just dealing with life in general. We all do it. And but I remember her telling us stories about when she was little, growing up in Moss Point, Mississippi, and how she said she would go out to the backyard in her grandparents' house, and she would drink from the well, and how she went right across the street from her house, and she would get in the horse and carriage with her grandmother and go to church, and how she just would tell me little bits of information. And now that I look at it, and through a stroke of Irish luck, actually through Facebook, I met and figured out that I have just tons of cousins of the Owens family. And I want to invite you to come with me to see and explore and to find all of my family, but my family history, and to show you that there is family out there. You just have to go and have the will and patience, and sometimes just by mere circumstances, you will find what you are looking for. I am driving to Moss Point, Mississippi, and the reason we're going to Moss Point, Mississippi is because that is where my cousin that I have found, Brad Owens, he lives there. And the other thing about it is that the Owens family, they originated more or less, I mean, didn't originally, but that's where they laid down roots, and I've just got family and this and that, all in Moss Point, Mississippi. And we are on our way right now, and we're going to do an interview with Brad. And I'm hoping and he can answer a lot of the questions, and we can see exactly those questions I've always had about my lost family. And right now, the weather's a bit bad, but that's okay. We are on the road, and we are gonna meet Mr. Brad Owens. Hi. Hey, alright. I'm here with my fourth cousin, Brad Owens. Mr. Brad Owens. Alright, so, alright, tell me, how did we first, meet? What was that you remember first seeing me?
Well, there was the Facebook connection, and found out we were probably related.
Mm-hmm.
You came, visited me at my house. We went over some things. Showed you where my grandparents used to have the Owens family store. And you recognize that from your childhood too. Pieces just started falling together. And we figured out we're probably cousins somehow.
Right. Because I remember I made that pillow off of Facebook, and it had that 1995, and you was like, that was the year I graduated, and that's how. And you sent me a message, and I remember coming over and asking you about Owens, and it was like you said, we just figured it out, that it was.
Just happens to know all my relatives' names. How does he know all this about me?
Knowing now that you've had a cousin and actually we grew up basically near each other, and we didn't even know. This
is the South. It can be easy to do that.
Right, because it's just I like my grandmother. I remember her just telling me about the Owens stories and things like that. Like when I believe it would be our great grandfather who started the store. That's the Owens store, the one that everybody knows and everybody talks about. So, did you actually go to that inside of it, or?
I went inside before they tore it down, and we salvaged whatever we could. And it wasn't long after that it was gone. That is my grandpa's old shotgun from the store. See all the woods, so old the woods rotted off of it. If you clean it up, it probably still work today. Or not.
So, like, where did you find that?
It was behind the counter.
Yeah, makes sense. So that he just would keep that in case, somebody would.
If somebody tried to rob him, he had this. I don't know if he kept it loaded or what. Cool little gun.
So if it had the wood, about hold it like if you would, if you was gonna. Good. So, yeah. Man, that's intimidating.
You wouldn't want to be looking down the barrel of it. I don't think I ever was inside it when it was operating, because I wasn't born yet.
Right. Because...
Spent time there looking around and snooping while I was over at my grandma's house.
Yeah. So... You still remember actually what it looked like, the building itself.
Well, it looks different now that I see pictures from that time. So I thought it was a lot bigger than the picture shows. But I was younger then. Everything was bigger.
Right. Not unless you're like me and just born short. That's. And like a common trait, a lot of things you just inherit. You genetically inherit that. And you've inherited the strong characteristics of the Owens. Okay? Like, our second great-grandfather, Owens, when I was doing research, he was a Confederate veteran, or he was a Confederate soldier. And he surrendered up in Citronelle. He was a prisoner of war. He was only a prisoner of war for like 3 weeks, and then, he was out. But in that, they said he was 6'1", and he had brown hair, and he had gray eyes.
Sounds familiar.
So how tall are you?
I'm 6'1".
And what color is your hair?
Brown.
See? So, and like when I was looking at my ancestry DNA, my DNA has a strong connection with the Owens side of the family. Like, it's just a distinct, like your genetic makeup is. So it's like, so do you want to walk down to where the old store was at and just look at where I'm sure it's all grew up, but, woods, but we can walk down because we don't have permission to go on the property, but, we can look and see where it's at if you want to. And also, you've got this very old, cool Bart's root beer sign, right?
Yep.
And where did that come from?
That came from my grandparents' store. That's one of the things we salvaged. It appears to be from the 50s. I haven't done enough research on it to see if it works. If you get a thermometer on it, it still works fine.
Oh, wow. Oh.
They don't build stuff like that anymore.
No, they don't. We'll walk down there. Does it? All right.
Let's do it. This side of Water Street, all the way to Walter Street on the other side, used to be all ours.
Oh, gosh.
Stand of trees here. My father and my uncle cleared it all. Eventually it got sold off in pieces when my grandmother died.
The Owenses was like playing Monopoly, It was like a real life Monopoly. This is the actual.
See all the tree stumps where there used to be pecan trees.
Okay, yeah. So this would have been the back of the house, more or less. All right. Okay. And
looks different now.
Yeah.
If you remember that picture that
Mm-hmm.
my aunt sent, that was taken from right around that power or telephone pole facing that way.
So where that telephone pole, it was that way. I see. Okay.
So that would have been the front of the store.
That was so great getting to talk to my fourth cousin, Brad. He filled in so much information that I previously just did not know, and those artifacts was great. Now, I want to bring up about this store, the family store. The reason that I wanted to show y'all that land to where the store was at, and me and Brad didn't bring this up, we just didn't think about it during that moment, is that store is was, I should say, a staple of the community of Moss Point, Mississippi. And that was there for decades. I mean, decades and decades. And there were so many memories and so many places. Like, there was a Facebook group, and a lot of people would sit there and say, I remember going there as a child and getting a root beer and some candy after school and things like that. So, and to say that they were just so into and helping the people of Moss Point, Mississippi as well, that to me is something that I felt was very important to share about my family, about the Owens family. Now, you may be asking, where are we going right now? We are heading to Citronelle, Alabama, and we're going to go and visit where my third great-grandfather Owens, where he actually surrendered during literally the last part of the Civil War. And that is actually very historical. So we're going to go there. We're going to actually go to the same place where my third great-grandfather stood and surrendered as a Confederate soldier and became an American again. He was always American, but he surrendered himself, and we're going to go and actually be there and see it, and you're going to see it with me. So we are headed to Citronelle, Alabama right now as we speak. As you can see, I am here. I am at the actual surrender site of where my third great-grandfather, Owens, where he came. And it was under a oak tree or something to that effect. But in his, the 21st Alabama that surrendered, there was only 250 soldiers, of Confederate soldiers, that was a prisoners of war. And now you may be asking yourself, okay, yes, this was your third great-grandfather, and yes, he did have a significant part of American history. Well, the funny thing is about my grandmother, as I told you in the first part of the film here, she moved to Citronelle, Alabama when she was a teenager with her mom and dad and her brother and her sisters. Now, if she would have never moved here, then she would have never met my grandfather. I mean, that would have never happened. If she would have not have moved here to Citronelle, she would have never met my grandfather. And her and my grandfather would have never had my dad, and, so forth and so forth. So it just proves that things happen for a reason. Things really do have a reasoning for it. And to me, it's actually amazing that I can be on the grounds where my third great-grandfather, who I knew nothing about the Owens family in general. I knew nothing. And now I am actually here, and I am a part, and I've stood on the grounds where something major in American history happened. It's just wonderful, and it's so great to know that your family history was a part of that. And it really does prove things happen for a reason. What can I say about finding your family, and a family that you didn't even know existed. I can just tell you how I feel. I feel a sense of where, like, there was a piece of my past that I just didn't know about, and then you find it, and it gives you a sense of not only accomplishment, but it gives you a sense of fulfillment, knowing that this is where your roots, this is where you come from. Now, you are who you are. That is just you. Every person is different. Every person is special. Every person has their own personality. But you have to know where you come from. And sometimes you don't have those answers. And when you don't have those answers, there's just that lingering little question mark that you always have. And when you find those answers, like I have with my lost family, it feels just a sense of accomplishment. It just is so wonderful to know that now I have cousins, and to know that I have a third great grandfather that was in the Civil War, and his son started a store in Moss Point, Mississippi, where it was like a staple for decades, and it just goes on and on, and it's so wonderful to know where you come from. If you have questions about your family, about who am I, where do I come from, there is groups on Facebook like DD Social. There's thousands of people that will help you find those answers that you are wanting to find. They will lead you in those right directions. Believe me, they've helped me. And I just think that if you ask these questions, and you sit there and say, I want to know these answers, those answers can find you. Those questions can be answered. You just have to ask, and you have to have the patience, and you have to have the will to find out. And it's just a wonderful feeling knowing. I just wanted to say thank you for watching. And I want to just say God bless you. And feel free to share this video, because if this video will inspire somebody or help somebody, then do it. Share this for me. Just, you never know. And really, that's what I have, because this is just a chapter in the book, and there is so much more to find out and explore about my lost family. So once again, thank you so much for watching, and God bless you.